Hello, people. We are talking about the murder of Eviana Rauter, much known like the girl of Port Bow. And lately, since the last half of a year, since September of the last year, when the Italian investigators closed the 18 months of investigation into the death of Evi Rauter, they concluded that they believe it was a murder, but they don't have enough evidence to continue with the investigation. So if new evidences emerge, they would reopen the case. And since then, it's what's been published is the article of Veronika Frenzel from Stern Crime, extensive article that I read, where she did come to some new informations regarding the case. She had interviews with sister of Evi Rauter and with Alex Iglesias of Port Bow, who took the photos, then with Enrique Gomez Varela, who was the chief investigator of the judicial police, and who else, with Dr. Lacassi, who did the autopsy, maybe a few people more. And some of the new information was that the van of the Austrian campers was parked there at the entrance of cemetery on this big plateau, and Gomez Varela did reveal some new information about the procedure he did that day. But this is not the video about this article. I'm just saying that she did dig up some new informations, potentially valuable in the further investigation. But kind of the article ended the same as the episodes of the crimes of Carles Porta, where it's like a mystery. What happened, in these 24 hours? How did she die and things? And there are some podcasts being published. So it's now let's say that the Italian investigators confirmed, that Evi Rauter, they believe she was murdered, so it was not a suicide. Then we have also, that is the conclusion of Dr. Reitner, who is collaborating with Österreich Findetuch, it's organizations that is looking for the Austrians who were murdered or disappeared. So this organization also holds the view, of course, that Evi Rauter was murdered. The thing that me and a few other people interested in the case firmly believed that it was a murder. So we have two forensics. I have I got the expert opinion of another professional forensic who wishes to be anonymous, who also revealed some details that are also indicating the murder. And I mean, for me, it's I'm 100% certain that it was a murder. And so I think we are past this discussion about that thing. But the problem is now that no one is trying. I mean, I'm trying to update with all the things that is being published about the case, whether by the other the journalist or whoever is investigated that case, be it of some official person or uh, just somebody like me, like who is like what I say, a private investigator, like for my own account. For anyway, so everybody just stops at the point where the Los Crims, the of Carles Porta stopped, is revealed all the things, and then further on it's unknown. Like this is where like the article of Veronica Frenzel left us like in this that it was kind of a mystery what happened. So that's how the article ends. And from very few resources that we have about the case, it's interesting to me that no one is thinking about the motive of this murder. So if it was a murder, and it was a murder, okay, what's the motive? That's the central part of that. If we could get to the motive, then I think like then we can like run a realistic scenario what happened and look for further evidences. But so what was the motive of this murder? You know, I don't see for Evi to be kidnapped in Italy and then transported to Spain, to Portbou, and then killed and hanged there. For such a serious thing, who'd paid money, who would make any money out of that? You know, she was not involved with any criminal activities. She was not some important person. She was just a high school girl, just finished high school. It was end of summer. She didn't have ex-boyfriends. She was not, any involved in any politics. So the politics is not the motive. The some love and revenge is not a motive. We can logically like discard with 99.99% of possibility that it was not the money, it was not involved in the crime, it was not revenge, it was not like a love story, it was not like spur of the moment murder. And then she was hanged to look it like suicide, because she was kidnapped, disappeared, and then she was found 1,000 kilometers away, past 2 countries. So what was the motive? Well, then I did put a lot of effort into finding the motive, and I think I found the motive that is you cannot when I present you, it cannot be denied. It has to do something with what I'm going to now explain you. Okay, so she was hanged at that big pine tree on that hill near the cemetery, and it was kind of a public thing, because it could be seen from all of the town of Portbou, and she was hanging at the top of the hill on that pine tree. I mean, anybody trying to hang someone, kill someone, would do it somewhere, in the woods, in the mountains, throw her into the sea or whatever, like, or hang her and then put the body down and, bury it. She would probably not be found. You would never heard of the girl from Portbow, another Portbow. That case wouldn't exist because it's probably maybe would find some remains years later, and who could then connect it with a girl who disappeared in Italy on 3rd of September 1990. So, but she was hanged at that pine tree. So for me, it's logical that pine tree, that place, was central, was very important for the killers. That she would be hanged on that pine tree. And the way she was hanged is, if you would like to simulate the suicide, you would hang the person is like in some ordinary manner, like most of the hanging victims hang, You wouldn't put her like in this head position, symmetrical. She looked like she's been put there. Like it looks very, I don't know how to tell you, it's bizarre, and so it's logical to assume it's some kind of ritual or it's some kind of exhibition, but something the killers wanted to like to present, to make it that way. And so the pine tree near the big building in the street where few hundred meters away is the Guardia Civil garrison, and it's practically on the border. Half a kilometer on the north is the border with France. It's this place to hang someone like this. It's very risky, for the murderers. It's very risky job. So it's they had to have a great motive to hang her at that exact pine tree. So I was investigating what is so important about that pine tree. Why is that pine tree important, So there's many things to look at, like is it that that view from that hill, or is it that the chapel of the cemetery is like 20 meters away, so that the walls of the cemetery are 20 meters up the hill? Is it that Walter Benjamin was buried in that hill, in that cemetery, excuse me? What is it, And then I found that on that part of the hill, the hill goes like this. On one side is the cemetery and the cliff, and there is a sea on the other side, and on the other side, that is lowering toward that building. So that part of the hill where is the pine tree, and the road that leads to the cemetery, the street that leads to the cemetery. On that place, there is the ancient statues, graveyard, worship place, whatever. But I was watching old photos of Portbow, old postcards of Portbow, which can be seen on the you can find it on the internet, and then I've made numerous videos where you can see all the what I've zoomed in into that exact spot. So is um, just let's say this is here's the chapel. Here's the chapel of San Cristo, the cemetery chapel, and then as the hill goes, in the front of the chapel is like a trail. It's like a trail which is separating the cemetery and this slope with the pine trees there. Um, so down that slope, maybe 10 meters from the chapel, there's this big structure, this big black, it looks like a monument or a statue or something very weird. And then in front and back of the statue, so near, are some structures made of like white rocks or gray rocks, but it's more like light. This statue is like it looks black, you know. So there's this strange stuff, strange things, structures there. And the cemetery was built in 1995. In 885 that year. So it was the cemetery is old about 140 years, and it was built by the railway, you know, because before that in Portbou it was in that valley was just some smugglers and some people who live there and have like farms, few fishermen, but it was like maybe 30 homes, cottages, small houses there, and nothing else. So when the railway came in the 1870 in that year, they wanted to like connect Barcelona with the French border, you know, and so when they built the rail, or it went from Girona to the coast. Anyway, when the railway came to Portbou, the owner of the railway, he bought the land, you know, in Portbou, including that on that hill, and he built a cathedral, you know, the church of Portbou, for the workers because the workers of the railway, when the railway was done, the workers, the people who were working the customs and all the employees, you know, they started to build houses there, and for them it was built the cathedral, and the cemetery was built, you know, on that other side of the hill, because by the regulation they needed to like build the structure with inside the for the sanitary reasons. Not, you cannot put people just you know, bury them wherever, you know. So when I watched the photos from before, just as the railway was finished, before the cemetery was there, you can see on that side of the hill there are these structures. So these structures are older than the cemetery and the chapel, and you know, before that it's this place was only mentioned the Portbou, so the valley there with a beach. This is the place where the monks of the Benedict monks who are from the monastery of San Quirce de Colera. So the Colera is on the first southern town of Portbou, and is a bigger, more important town than Portbou. So kind of Portbou belonged like in this, like a county or something. They belonged to the Colera, and before the cemetery they would even like the dead bodies they would throw to the sea, or they would transfer them to the cemetery in Cholera, where the people were buried there. And so these monks, this Sanquirze is a monastery that's somewhere near, in the hills, very old, 1,000-year-old cemetery, something like this, 800 years. And the monks who lived there, they would come to Portbou to fish, and it was kind of, I'm not sure if they were owners of this land, but it was mentioned like the only were mentioned the monks who were written people. They would mention Portbou as they would come there to fish occasionally. So, and then it had very few populations before the railway. The Portbou developed when the railway came. So in year 1870. But before that, you have these structures. So these structures are not some Christian monuments. It's I believe they could be from the Visigoths. There were a Visigothic kingdom there, and the Visigoths before 6th century they were pagan, and they have this pagan religion. Visigoths being the Germanic, they had the same religion like what I mentioned in the video about the symbols that were around the pine tree, and the runas on the that can be seen, on that pine tree, on the trunk of the pine tree, the runes. So it's of the Germanic Asatru religion, these magical symbols, and so these structures, I'm not sure, but they could be from this Visigoth era, because it looks like some ancient graveyards, but it's not Christian. And after the Visigoths, the first who came were the Franks, and the Franks were already Christians, when they came after the Visigothic. Even the Visigoths were Christianized, and then came the Franks. You saw the Carolingian emperor, and they were Christians. They wouldn't build something like unidentifiable. What is it? And then again, these things are not documented, so they are kind of secret. Like nobody is mentioning it, nobody's talking about it. You cannot dig it into the history of Portbou. It's just there. But the most important thing why I'm counting all of that things is that this at this spot, like a few meters far from this, like a statue and these old graves or whatever that is, and around, is the location of that pine tree. So the heavy Rauter was hanged on a pine tree where few meters away are some old graves or some worship place or some strange structure, and we cannot like discard that. It's very important. I told you that the location where she was hanged must be very important factor in all of the case, because it's so public, it's so dangerous to do that, to murder someone at that place. And then it's, what's the motive? when we discard all the other motives, then it's kind of some crazy ritual or something that we are left with. And if you have the old graveyard and all the statues, and they are secret, that the people of Portbou, the people of Portbou, no one said, she was hanged there, but there is this old statue, old structures. They're quiet about it. They don't even acknowledge that it's there. But if you go there, it's there. It can be seen on the photos. It's as clear as a day. This is what the most suspicious thing is. People talking about, inside the town of Portbou. Everybody going about the case. Do you remember I was there? I saw it. Somebody saw this. All the talking about it. But nobody said, hey, the hangar where you have this old structure, worship place, pagan graveyard or whatever the hell that is. They're not mentioning that. And also all the other stuff that forensic should have seen, all the things that Evie had, like this amulet in the hair and all these threads around or in the ears and all the these cords that were pulled from her hair to that statue, exactly in that position, up the hill from her back up there where the statue is. They are not mentioning that. I don't know, sometimes I think the people of the crimes, they are kind of investigating that case and identify the girl, but they don't want to get into the pagan graveyard and who really murdered Evie Rauter.